What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, arm yourselves, life stuff. Surprise, well, not surprise because you're going to be reading the title. This is an order development video. I tried to make two separate videos for about an hour before this, but they didn't come together. So, very briefly, we're going to cover what those topics would have been, and then we'll get into some light order development stuff and call it a night. Audio issue worked itself out too, which is a good thing. I'm tired of living an embarrassing life in a humiliating fashion at everyone else's mercy. There's no cabin in the woods, there's no Little Eden, there's no tropical island you can escape to in which you can do your own thing. You can't do your own thing. Moo cows aren't satisfied with getting to fight different colored moo cows, either in a political or a racial sense. They are compelled to destroy any individual that does not align with them. But it also feels like there's a cosmic element to this. As in, maybe there are ways to escape, but your efforts will not work until you have learned the required lessons. Like, what is it in university? ELOs, I think they're educational learning outcomes. Until you've received the message, you are not allowed out. And thinking about this reminds me of, quotes, work that builds character. Breaking your back for no reason does not build character. Or doing something because that's just what you're supposed to do does not build character. A form of work that helped me build character in that fashion was, or is, janitorial work. Occasionally, one of my old maintenance contacts who went into business for himself will hit me up for help with janitorial work. And when I started out in this area, that's what I was, primarily a janitor. And janitorial work builds character because the work is hard, but also because it teaches you disgust for people. Or rather, it shows you why you should be disgusted with people and then allows you to draw your own conclusions. How inconsiderate people are, how careless, how greedy, and just generally, biologically disgusting. Just about every women's stall I've ever seen has a sanitary bin built into the wall, but where do those disgusting, crackly Vienna sausages actually end up? Do they end up where they're supposed to go, which is maybe half a foot from your shoulder? No, they end up in the toilet fucking things up. They end up stuck to the floor like a murder scene. They end up stuck to walls. Somehow is that... Like, what is that? Who, like... It's... You've put together that they're sticky. That makes me want to vomit. Sticky enough to be sticky. So you want to do arts and crafts with your fucking period blood on a wall, or you go into one of these primarily disabled stalls like the room for themselves and it's the tampon party in there. How much can women bleed in one day? It's shocking, it's disgusting. You have your own built for you disposal bins. Can you please use them? I mean, it's disgusting enough for a janitor. I don't imagine it's any more pleasant for anyone else using the restroom. And then dudes, there's just piss all over the floor. Always. There's always puddles of piss everywhere. Or I love when dudes will, for some reason, shit on the toilet seats instead of in the toilet. Like, what were you... That takes gymnastic skill. That takes muscle to keep yourself upright in that position to be able to shit in that pattern and leave it there. And then, of course, just generally breaking things, both sexes, for no reason. But all this to say, at the basest level, these are the things acting like they are better than you, acting like they know better than you, acting like they have the right to dictate what you can and can't do, how your life turns out, while you live in embarrassing conditions and are powerless to do anything but watch. I mean, you can join in, you can try to be a good moo cow who likes getting milked and fucked, but if that's not your natural state, then it'll bring you no pleasure and you'll be sniffed out eventually. Do you remember what Saint O'Neill said about in show business, tap dancing cocksuckers? Much of the time, people will end up above you and in control of you when their only claim to fame is subservience. They have no talent, they have no thought, they have no willpower. What they have is natural subservience. I'm tired of living in shit at the mercy of people who deserve to be living in shit. But as we've established, deserving doesn't exist. So what needs to be done to get yourself in into a more suitable position for you and to deal with people who would prefer you not be there, who would prefer you to stay in shit forever? Well, it's power and money, obviously, but the methods we've been trying haven't been working, and I think they haven't been working for two reasons. If the universe refuses to cooperate with your efforts solo, then there's almost certainly a required cooperative element. And two, if it isn't happening in the time frame you want, which is, as always, right now, then that means you should stop, or probably means you should stop trying to make things happen right now, and instead gear up or spec into the skill tree that is the long term. Because thinking about it, provided we don't die in car crashes or gunpowder lobotomies, we have a lot of time to work toward a more suitable or happier position in life. It would be great to have it right now, but if we can't have it right now and our options are have it much later once we have figured out how to make it work, or have it never, I'll go with the former. And I had 5 sips, not even shots, of vodka last night. And just that little bit was enough to stress me out for 2 reasons. One, remembering how quickly drinking can get out of hand, because that five sips turned into an overwhelming thirst for 10 shots, and there's no way that would have ended well. And then two, how wonderful alcohol is. While I was taking my 5 little sips, all I was thinking or suspecting in the back of my head was maybe all I'm gunning for in the end, wanting wealth and power, is the ability to have, well, not a cabin in the middle of the woods, more like a cabin in the middle of the desert, in which I can just drink myself to death with nobody bothering me. And if that is my actual unconscious goal, then that is both understandable and even desirable. And I discuss this alcohol ending because that is a conclusion you can achieve at any age. You don't have to drink yourself to death right now. And if you tried to, it probably wouldn't go the way you would like it to, which is being ferried off into Neverland by the Green Fairy. That's not the way it's going to happen. If you don't, if you haven't set everything up perfectly for that. So, cooperation and long term. The older you get, the faster years pass, but also the more valuable years become somehow. You would think when years feel longer, they're more valuable, but I'm finding when years feel like a month, you can use them a lot more effectively. You can learn a lot more. And knowledge like that is exponential. So you can spend 5 years studying something and accrue crystals worth of 5 years of knowledge, but for you, because you're aging rapidly and dying, it doesn't feel like that long. But the results are that long. And depending on how you look at it, that makes aging not feel as bad. Because if you are applying your time well, then you are getting more results for less time. But it's felt time, because in actual time you did spend all that time applying yourself well, but to you it feels like you were applying yourself well for a much shorter period of time. It's not all bad. And you might wish time felt longer so you could spend more time enjoying things, but what do you enjoy? What are you spending your time enjoying? Hating people who hate you? Cleaning up shit or doing drudgery work you hate? Consuming media that is a poor substitute for a real life in which you have agency? Or if you're not even playing a video game, you're watching people who have agency, reading people who have agency, people you'll never be. You aren't enjoying your life. Be thankful time is speeding up. You get your results faster. But again, cooperation and long term. I think that city council meeting idea is a good idea, and it's a way to kill a few birds with one stone. As we said last time, it is a way to build awareness. It is a way, or a light organizational practice routine, but done right, it could be a lot more. If, say, after we ran it for 1 to 3 months just to see how it works, we start doing it normally or routinely, that changes it from being a small practice to something a little more serious. In this situation, although on a small scale or in a sporadic, inconsistent web, eyes will be watching the state. People aren't watching news channels or getting their information from YouTube talking heads or something. They are watching the legislative process on a small scale play out before their eyes in all its grotesquerie. And all government is grotesque. Local government is especially grotesque. I forgot to mention in the last video, I've been having this... It feels like something apocalyptic is coming, but those feelings are hard to take seriously because how many times in your life have you felt something apocalyptic is coming and then it didn't? With the Onion InfoWars shit that went down today, right now we aren't doing anything with real stakes, but I'd like to diversify all this. And we have that in some fashion on, or with Fiverr rather, but that's not an information hub. That's like a McDonald's. In 2025, I want to put together a mailing list. So if something happens, there's a way to contact the people who want to be contacted so a regrouping can happen. However, again, that's not really diversification if an emergency mailing list is all you're doing. if we're going to do something like that, then I want to use it in a worthwhile manner, in a way that will keep people engaged. So I'm imagining either a bi monthly or a quarterly or something newsletter that opens briefly with channel stuff or information that can't be discussed on the channel, followed by all these reports of goings on in different municipalities. Not naming specific cities, not even naming specific states, just a cardinal direction, northwest, east, or south, and what politically is going on in one of those areas, and have a collection of them. The mutant bullshittery of local government from your eyes to another person's eyes. No major news outlets in between. And depending on how it's styled, this affords us a few opportunities. One, contributors who are people who, by necessity, are participating in what we're doing, get to start finding their voice. And you might think you have already found your voice, but one of the reasons I recommend everybody try YouTube, even if your channel goes nowhere, it probably won't go anywhere, mine didn't for years, is you don't know your voice until many people are judging you. In fact, if you haven't, as O'Neill would say, had the microphone as an outlet, or the paper as an outlet, whatever it would be, you're doing an impression of someone you want to seem like. Because you haven't, it's pressure. You haven't been pressured to figure out how you communicate. And that's like level 2, or level 3, actually. Because going and getting informed, staying informed, one level, level 1. Organization, the ability to report and record keep and all this, level 2. The ability to communicate effectively and entertainingly, 3. That's when I think doing this over the longer term, that's where power starts coming in. Because when you have a collection of people united who know what they're talking about because they've seen it and know how to talk, people start listening. And not just overhearing, but tuning in to hear what you have to say. To hear about what's going on in your city, and also to hear your take on it. It's like conjuring a populist, or our populist, news outlet out of the ether. From nothing. No capital. Nothing but people with the ability to affect other people and thereby effect change. Because going out and getting educated and voting means nothing. Getting a lot of people to vote about something you care about, if we're assuming or we're imagining democracy exists, that's different. But even if it doesn't, so activism is an industry, racism is an industry, change is an industry. Wherever things need to happen, or people need something or want something, there's money to be made. That's why all these things exist. If something is happening, or people feel a certain way strongly, there is money to be made. The same way you conjure up your ghostly news outlet, you conjure up interest from nothing, and then money from nothing. And then that gets us even closer. And then on top of that, what are the odds you meet valuable contacts in your reporting? You might think it can't happen, but in my experience, some of the most impactful changes to my life have come from contacts I met in unexpected places. You never know. You can't, if the universe is trying to call you, if you don't walk over to the phone, you're not going to be able to pick it up. And I sound and feel pathetic right now, yet I think you can feel like shit and be shit and still swing for the fences and still possibly hit a home run. I think there's a way for us with our resources right now without a huge windfall of capital or something to start moving us in an us direction. Not good for the entire world, not good for our people, but good for us. Closer to our little Eden that will end up turning on each other and destroying, but nonetheless, if the universe is trying to tell me I need to be more cooperative, then I am willing to take the risk. Because what do I have to lose? Well, okay, you always have more things to lose, but in all likelihood, am I just going to have to go back to janitorial work totally? I don't care. I mean, it's disgusting and I hate it and I hate people. But I don't care about that. As long as I'm not imprisoned or dead, I'll be able to think of something. Something. And the older I get, the more somethings I'll have in my bag of tricks. All I want is to build a little kingdom in which dumb fucking moo cows can't fuck with me. I talked about wanting to reach a point or a level it would be possible to Boeing people, but really, if we're looking at this from the more negative side of no solution, no salvation, just a safe enough place I can drink until I drop is enough. That would be enough for me. Vermin diplomats from the corners and crevices becoming enough of a threat they can declare independence and try to live happily, or as happily as they can for a time. And I think it's going to come from cooperation or organization and gaming for the long term. I don't mind this taking until I'm 70, becoming a 70-year-old rodent to get what I want, as long as I get what I want. And I spent my time fighting to get what I want. And maybe that's what all this is. Maybe there really is no solution, no salvation. Not just on the grander scale, but on any scale. Maybe you were born in shit, and you'll die in shit. No matter what you do. But I don't want to sit there and take that. There's a difference between internalizing the fact you don't matter, understanding what you are in the bigger picture and that you're nothing, basically, and just rolling over into being okay with that. There's a difference between understanding or coming to realize something and feeling satisfied with that. I don't want to live my entire life like this, and I'm terrified that's exactly what will happen if I don't pull weird strats consistently across decades. As long as you're alive, you can do something, no matter how far you fall. Even if all you can do at the start is just observe with intent, instead of just observing and letting it happen. I feel so defeated today, and I can't put my finger on why. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.